Chapter 270, Encounter with Rina. A quiet silence filled the mansion, sunlight spilling gently through large arched windows, illuminating the polished wooden corridors with a comforting golden glow. Seraph moved slowly through the hallway, her slender figure draped loosely in a simple white gown, freshly bathed and clean. Her long emerald green hair cascaded gently down her shoulders, still slightly damp, framing her delicate face. Each step toward her room was habitual and mechanical, a quiet routine she'd long become accustomed to in her months of solitude. Her footsteps barely made a sound on the luxurious carpeting, the mansion's silence profound yet familiar. Just as she reached the corridor leading to her room, movement caught her eye. Rina emerged quietly from Orion's room, gently shutting the door behind her. For a moment, the two young women stared at each other in silent surprise, each seeming equally uncertain. Rina hesitated, her eyes betraying a hint of discomfort and caution. Her usual confidence wavered slightly, yet beneath it lay genuine empathy for Seraph's isolation. Seraph, noticing Rina's hesitation, felt her heart quicken. For months, she had wanted to ask someone, anyone, about Orion, yet had never found the courage or opportunity. Now, faced with someone who clearly knew Orion's whereabouts, Seraph's frail determination stirred once more. Gathering every ounce of courage within her fragile heart, Seraph took a slow step forward, her gaze filled with quiet desperation and faint hope. Her lips parted hesitantly, trembling slightly as she struggled to voice her long-suppressed question. "Oh, on," she whispered quietly, her voice thin and fragile. "Is he back?" Rina paused visibly, her gentle eyes softening immediately at the vulnerability in Seraph's voice. She hesitated briefly, weighing something in her mind, clearly conflicted about revealing what she knew. Finally, she took a slow, calming breath, deciding carefully on her next words. "Seraph," Rina began gently, her voice soft yet serious, tinged with quiet concern, "listen to what I'm about to tell you very seriously. And please, don't tell Anne." She stopped abruptly, realizing midway how absurd the warning sounded. Seraph had lived in quiet isolation, her voice rarely escaping beyond the walls of her own room. Rina sighed softly, shaking her head gently at herself, feeling slightly foolish. "Sorry, that was a dumb thing to say," she murmured softly. Rina regarded Seraph again, her gaze gentle but resolute. After another short moment of consideration, she nodded softly toward Orion's door. "Come, follow me." Seraph hesitated, her emerald eyes wide with confusion and slight apprehension. Yet something about Rina's sincere expression compelled her forward. She nodded silently, her quiet footsteps trailing softly behind Rina as the older girl opened the door, quietly ushering her inside. The room was dimly lit, curtains partially drawn, casting everything in a gentle, soft glow. Seraph's eyes adjusted slowly, then suddenly widened in shock and disbelief. Her slender body froze abruptly, her breath hitching softly in surprise and confusion. Lying upon a massive fortified bed was Orion, yet not the Orion she remembered. His form had drastically changed, now unmistakably draconic, his massive body stretched out across the reinforced structure. Gleaming scales covered him, shimmering faintly even in the soft sunlight. His powerful yet elegant body rested quietly, each slow breath resonating softly, steady yet deeply unconscious. Seraph's heartbeat quickened in distress and wonder. Instinctively, she slowly moved forward, her trembling steps guided solely by the urgent need to be close to him. Hap, Ned," she whispered shakily, her voice strained and barely audible as her gaze remained fixed upon Orion's serene yet unfamiliar visage. Rina exhaled softly, stepping carefully closer to Seraph, her voice gentle and steady as she explained the situation. "Orion, he's undergoing evolution. But there were complications when it started, so none of us know how long it'll take for him to finish. It's been like this for months now." Seraph felt a painful tightness grip her chest, tears forming quietly at the edges of her wide eyes. Slowly, almost fearfully, she raised a trembling hand, gently caressing Orion's face, tracing the unfamiliar yet somehow comforting contours of his draconic body. Her fingertips brushed softly against the smooth scales, warmth radiating gently from his unconscious body. Hap, and E. Seraph's voice shook faintly, laden heavily with worry and sadness. Her fingers continued gently stroking Orion's face, as if her touch alone might stir him awake. Rina, feeling the heavy emotion in the room, gently began explaining the events that led to Orion's current state. She described the fierce battle in the forest, how Orion had boldly and recklessly chosen to confront powerful foes to protect them all. Her words were calm yet deeply emotional, each description painting vividly in Seraph's mind the harrowing fight against overwhelming odds, Orion bravely risking his own foundation and evolution to protect those he cared about. Her voice shook slightly at certain parts, clearly affected by the memories. Seraph's delicate fingers trembled more violently upon hearing Rina's words, realizing the tremendous risks Orion had willingly undertaken. Her heart ached deeply at the thought of him fighting fiercely while struggling against the unbearable urge to fall into unconsciousness, battling both external threats and his own body's evolution simultaneously. Rina spoke gently, her voice softening further. He fought bravely, stubbornly holding on even when his body and mind reached their absolute limit. No one knows exactly when he'll wake up. Master Eldrick and Lady Selene have been constantly monitoring him, doing everything they can to stabilize his evolution. After a moment of heavy silence, Rina slowly stepped away, her voice quiet yet deeply empathetic. I'll leave you alone with him for a while. As the door softly closed behind Rina, Seraph remained quietly by Orion's side, the room's silence profound, broken only by the steady rhythm of Orion's deep, unconscious breaths. Tears streamed quietly down her pale cheeks, each drop filled with sorrow, love, and aching worry. Her chest tightened painfully, her heart overflowing with emotions she couldn't fully voice. Gently, her fragile hand continued softly caressing Orion's scaled face, each tender touch a quiet plea and comfort. She opened her mouth, desperately wanting to express her longing, fear, and love, yet the words remained painfully trapped within her, her voice rusty from months of silence. Pl. Ease, wa, ku, up, she finally whispered, her voice trembling painfully with the effort, each word raw with emotion and sincerity. Her plea filled the quiet room with gentle desperation, her fingers softly brushing against his scales in tender reassurance, silently urging him to fight, to return to her. Time seemed meaningless as Seraph remained vigilantly beside Orion, her gentle touch unwavering, her quiet presence steadfast. Hours passed slowly, her voice occasionally breaking the heavy silence with a fragile whisper of hope, her eyes never leaving his serene, unconscious face. In her solitude, memories flooded her mind, of Orion's gentle words, his comforting presence, his kindness and warmth that had once shone brightly upon her dark world. Each memory strengthened her fragile resolve, deepening her quiet yet fierce determination to remain by his side until he awoke. Despite her physical frailty, an unyielding strength gradually filled her fragile heart, silently pledging her unwavering support. Her quiet voice slowly grew steadier, each whispered word clearer, carrying a gentle but resolute promise to remain faithfully by his side. Ion. T, she whispered softly yet resolutely, each quiet word a solemn vow. Her gentle tears ceased slowly, replaced by quiet determination, hope stubbornly burning within her chest. As evening shadows slowly lengthened within the quiet room, Seraph remained quietly beside Orion, her gentle presence an unwavering beacon of hope and love. Her heart, though heavy with worry, felt slightly lighter, finally realizing that Orion had not forgotten about her, he had not abandoned her but instead was in his own predicament. She would wait as long as it took, silently enduring the quiet solitude, knowing that one day, however long it might take, Orion would finally awaken. Until then, she would patiently wait for his day of awakening. Chapter 271, Wandering within the boundless azure expanse of Orion's sea of consciousness, a serene stillness had reigned uninterrupted for months. His consciousness remained confined to the form of a delicate golden flame, small, fragile, yet steadily burning as if someone had poured a lifetime supply of premium-grade gasoline into his soul and walked off whistling. Though time crawled at a pace too slow to measure, Orion wasted none of it. He unraveled and absorbed every fragment of knowledge he held, perfecting his understanding of runic inscriptions and mana circuits, honing his mental swordplay and elemental sword auras, and immersing himself in the elemental theories of fire, water, earth, metal, wood, ice, wind, thunder, and poison. He had carefully visualized and crafted complex spells in his mind, mapping their theoretical structures and precise rune formations in incredible detail. But without the ability to engrave them into the very fabric of his sea of consciousness, these creations remained intangible dreams, shimmering just beyond reach. Finally, after an immeasurable span of intense study and mental cultivation, Orion let out a long, weary exhale. His tiny, luminous eyes slowly opened atop the flickering golden flame, looking around the endless azure domain with a fresh awareness. He blinked once, then twice, gradually becoming conscious of a subtle yet distinct shift in his surroundings. The azure expanse, once faintly translucent and gently swirling, had grown noticeably denser, its ethereal currents thicker and more robust. The entire realm felt somehow heavier, more tangible, as though the very essence of his sea of consciousness had strengthened considerably over these months. "A few months have passed," Orion whispered thoughtfully, his voice softly echoing in the boundless expanse, "and I haven't even slept once yet." He paused, observing the altered environment with newfound curiosity. "This place, it's definitely changed. The mana feels richer, denser now." Driven by curiosity, he instinctively attempted to move, expecting resistance as before, but suddenly, his small golden flame effortlessly drifted forward, gliding through the thickened azure currents. His eyes widened sharply in astonishment, flickering brighter with a surge of excitement. "I can finally move?" Orion exclaimed in disbelief, his voice tinged with exhilaration. With newfound freedom, he swiftly propelled himself forward, instinctively seeking out the place where his affinity runes should reside. Eager anticipation quickened his pace. Over the countless days of immobility, he had repeatedly pondered the current state of his affinity runes. Would they have strengthened or evolved in parallel with his sea of consciousness? As he approached the familiar location within the azure expanse, Orion's excitement quickly waned, replaced by a growing apprehension. His tiny flame form slowed, eventually stopping entirely as his gaze fell upon the sight before him. Floating silently in the dense azure currents were three familiar yet heartbreakingly damaged affinity runes: fire, wood, and thunder. Each rune hovered weakly, their once radiant surfaces now riddled with deep cracks, their intricate patterns barely recognizable. The powerful, vibrant glow they had once emitted was utterly dimmed, replaced by a faint, sputtering radiance that seemed dangerously close to extinguishing entirely. The sight made Orion taste something bitter in his non-existent mouth, frustration filling his flaming body. His small golden flame flickered dimly, reflecting his sullen emotions. For a long, heavy moment, he stared silently at the damaged runes, absorbing the gravity of his losses. He gritted his teeth and said slowly, "I swear on Echo's soul I'll find the base of those damn bastards and raze it to the ground." He sighed softly, a weary note of resignation creeping into his tone. "It matters little now, even if I could go back in time, I would make the same choice." Yet, as Orion observed the damaged affinity runes, a faint resolve gradually took root within him once more. Slowly, determination replaced disappointment in his tiny eyes, reigniting the steady brilliance of his golden flame. "Still, it's not irreversible," he muttered quietly, more to reassure himself than anything else. "My foundation is damaged, but it's not destroyed. I can rebuild. No, I will rebuild." He moved gently closer, examining the damaged runes with renewed clarity, his gaze thoughtful and analytical. His thorough mastery of mana circuits and runic inscription theories over these past months had given him insights he previously lacked. "I've grown considerably in knowledge during this time," he murmured to himself, feeling quite good about it now. Reconstructing these runes wouldn't be a problem. Not only that, I can make them stronger, more efficient. More perfect. He floated quietly before the damaged affinity runes, regarding them not merely as losses, but as opportunities to reforge all his affinity runes with the immense knowledge he now possessed. "But," he softly said, exhaling a sigh, "I wonder if I took any more losses. This is merely the affinity runes. My soul, bloodlines, and physique are my true foundation. As for my soul, He glanced downward at his floating flickering flame. He couldn't be sure if it was good or bad, but his soul seemed to be glowing in 3 distinct shades. I wonder how my soul will look at the soul embodiment stage. He softly exhaled, feeling as if he was getting old due to all the exhales. Orion's gaze slowly shifted from the damaged affinity runes, moving ahead to where numerous empty spots hovered silently within the thick, azure currents. These vacant areas were once teeming with intricate spells meticulously carved into the fabric of his sea of consciousness, now reduced to nothingness, their absence a stark reminder of the heavy price he had paid. Yet surprisingly, Orion found himself relatively unfazed by the loss. His small, flickering flame form bobbed gently as he shrugged nonchalantly, accepting this setback with a kind of casual resignation. Well, he murmured lightly, his voice carrying a hint of mild amusement, I can just engrave the spells again. Might as well just engrave all the tier 3 or higher spells next time around. This can even be an opportunity to build them up properly from scratch. He paused briefly, considering the immense depth of knowledge he had accumulated during these solitary months. Indeed, with his current level of comprehension, recreating these spells, and even crafting superior versions, would now be an easier and far more rewarding task. Satisfied with this positive outlook, Orion gently moved his golden flame form and moved on through the dense azure currents. His next destination within this vast inner domain was clear in his mind, the Eye of Revelation rune. As Orion arrived before the designated area, his flickering flame abruptly halted, and his eyes widened in stark disbelief. Floating silently, the incredibly complex and intricate rune representing his Eye of Revelation skill was clearly fractured, its delicate internal pathways visibly disrupted, and its formerly pristine glow now intermittent and weak. A wave of intense frustration surged through Orion, causing his delicate flame form to briefly flare brighter in agitation. What the fuck, he exclaimed sharply, voice echoing in the boundless expanse. This is some bullshit. How can a supreme great ability be broken during fights between mere fucking mortals? Orion stared incredulously at the damaged rune, the frustration within him only deepening. Carefully, he floated closer, scrutinizing every fractured segment, desperately searching for clues or explanations. His mind raced, rapidly cycling through possible reasons, each one increasingly improbable or unsatisfactory. Yet, despite his exhaustive analysis, Orion found no conclusive answers. The damage defied logical explanation, and the more he examined it, the deeper his frustration grew. Eventually, he let out a weary sigh of resignation, accepting defeat for now.